Welcome, everybody. I'm Marc David, founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. We're in the Psychology of Eating podcast. I'm with Noelle today. Welcome, Noelle.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here.
It's great to be here.
Oh, good. You know, for those of you who are new to the podcast, I haven't met Noelle before, and we're going to have one session and try to do some good work around food and body. So, Noelle, if you could wave your magic wand and get whatever you wanted with food and body, what would that be for you?
It would be to eat sensibly, not binge, to be able to eat a variety of food and have my body respond well without binging. Got
it. So this thing about binging, how long has it been a concern for you?
Well, it's been on and off during different periods of my life, but it's been a bigger concern in the last few years. One of the things that I've had going on for me since I was 22 years old is food sensitivities. Mm-hmm. And there would be long stretches where I would be literally perfect because I would have to be, because I would be in so much pain if I ate foods that were not within. I had certain foods that I could eat and feel well, and other ones that I couldn't. And so I've done a lot of healing, and now I'm able to tolerate way more foods. But after all those years of deprivation, I feel like I'm out here and I can eat stuff and I can't control myself, and I don't know what to do about it.
So when you eat things that you feel like it's out of control, are those similar foods that used to be foods that you were sensitive to?
Yeah.
Just give me a sense. What foods might that look like for you?
So I had a salicylate and oxalate intolerance, which means those things are in all plant matter and just various amounts. So that's more of an intolerance issue. I did have former sensitivity, but the last 10 years I've been dealing with these intolerances. So it's more like I stayed very low, because if I started going into higher ones, the cravings would just multiply. And maybe on some level, I still have some sort of intolerance, and that's what drives the binging. Because if I go back to those low levels in the foods, I'm fine. But I don't want to have to live that kind of restrictedness forever.
Sure. So give me examples of specific foods that you find yourself binging on.
Okay. So recently I ate a whole watermelon. Mm-hmm. And, you can look at that and say, oh, well, that's really a good food. There's many benefits, but not when you eat a whole watermelon. Mm-hmm. And then I've recently introduced rice into my diet, and I hadn't eaten any grains since 2009. Mm. And it's been going well, but I'll sit down and eat like a whole thing of rice cakes, or maybe like to make some rice-based muffins. And instead of having a muffin, I'll eat like 6 muffins.
Got it. So previously, years ago, if you had, let's say, a piece of watermelon, what would have been your physical reaction to it?
Like when it was a problem?
Yes.
I would immediately get burning on my shoulders, and I would have to lay down. I would be exhausted. I'd have to lay down for about a half hour after I ate. And then I would be constipated the next day, and I couldn't, and I would have a lot of body pain. Mm-hmm. So, especially in the joints. So there would be an immediate reaction and then a 24-hour later type of reaction.
Right. So nowadays, let's say you didn't eat that whole watermelon and you just had a piece. Would you still react just physiologically with that one piece?
No, and I didn't react physiologically to the whole watermelon. So.
Yeah. Okay. It's just that you ate a whole watermelon, and that's not
right.
What you want to be doing. Yes, I understand. Right. Are you interested in losing weight?
I would like to, yes.
How much weight do you want to lose?
Probably between 30 and 35 pounds.
And how long have you been wanting to lose weight?
That's there's an interesting correlation here. I was a great weight for myself all these years until my mom moved in with us. These were her last years of her life, and she spent the last 3.5 years living here with us. And during that time, I just started to gain little by little by little. And this binging has been more so probably since she passed last December. Yes, you're right. There was little ones in there when she first moved here, but I was basically binging with blueberries. Mm-hmm. And I would eat a pound of blueberries. And so that didn't really put on a whole lot of weight very fast, but I basically gained much of the weight with blueberries. And then after she passed, I think that's part of how I've avoided some of the grief.
Yes. Well, good for you for seeing that and noticing that. And you're unique and you're uniquely you. And I will say to you that over the years, I've worked with so many people and just known so many people who, when there's death of a loved one, death of a parent, we turn to food because grieving just might be one of the most difficult emotions to deal with of all of them.
I agree.
Grief. It's as hard as any of them. And it's as hard as any of them because we're losing a loved one and you're losing a parent in this case. Is your dad still alive?
No.
So you're officially an orphan.
Right.
Yeah. And there's something, I don't know about you, but there's something that happens inside of us when both parents are now gone from the earth. Mm-hmm. Because even if you didn't depend on them in any way, you knew somehow, somewhere, like my mommy or my daddy are still walking the earth. I'm still somebody's child.
Mm-hmm. It puts you face to face with your own mortality. It's like, I'm next.
Yes. How old are you?
58.
58. Do you have kids?
I do. I have 2.
Grandkids?
5.
Ooh, yeah. So you don't want to binge and you'd like to lose weight. And those seem to be obviously connected because if you didn't binge on certain foods, there's a good chance your weight would start to normalize.
Mm-hmm. And there's more, and I realize that there's more than just an emotional component to this because there's times where I feel as though I'm in an emotionally fine place and I've connected it to like a desire for fun. The celebratory thing, in the past with all the intolerances, there's been times where like you're at a gathering and everybody's eating fun food and there you sit.
Yes.
And so I think there was a deprivation on that level as well. And so I don't need to be at a gathering. I just want to have food fun.
Sure. So roughly how old were you when you first noticed, I got an issue. Something's going on with, I eat something and I have a reaction to it.
I was 22.
You were 22. So before that age, did you have a concern around weight or was your weight okay for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good.
Okay. So you were 22. What was happening? How did you, so did the actual symptoms start to happen around that age?
They did. It was several months after I got married.
Okay. Was it stressful getting married?
Yes. I'm not married to that person anymore. Let's put it that way. So it was, I thought we had talked things through before we got married about how we were going to live. And one of the things that my dad was never home and I didn't want to marry somebody who was never home. And then 3 months after we got married, he decided he wanted to have his own business and then was never home. And so that was like, oh my gosh, I married my dad.
Mm-hmm. How long did you stay married for?
12 years.
Did you have kids with him?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All of them?
All of them.
Yes, yes, yes. So, and you're in a relationship now.
Correct.
Okay. So that's when the symptoms started for you. Did you
Right.
did you make any connection between that at the time? Symptoms start shortly after getting married.
At 22, probably not. I was looking all on a physical level.
Sure. How does it sound now talking about it?
Oh, I'm sure there's something there.
Yeah. Yeah. So your dad wasn't around when you were growing up.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Did that relationship ever get to a place for you where you found peace with it?
I would say he lived to be 91, and I'd say the last year, yes.
So the last year of his life, you started finding more peace in that relationship. But then is it accurate to say that previous to that last year, you really didn't have the father that you wanted?
No, and by making peace with it, it wasn't like we had a good relationship. It meant that more like I was acceptance of, yeah. Later on, back in the day when he was younger, there weren't diagnoses like there are now. And I'm sure that he was on the spectrum.
Mm.
And he really literally couldn't have a real relationship.
Mm.
And I think it was discovering that, not that he was diagnosed officially, but he was clearly, there was something that wasn't right with him. And he would never look you in the eyes. And, there were some classic things that would be like what was considered Asperger's. Now it's just on the spectrum.
Yeah.
So I think in that last year, I really came to terms with that and didn't expect more than what he could give. And then that we had whatever kind of relationship he was able to.
Good for you. Good for you. It's never too late to heal a relationship with a parent, even if it's in the last year of their life. There's just something I find very golden and magical and beautiful about that. I'm really fascinated with your story, and what fascinates me, and we can't be sure, but I've seen this 20,000 times, where oftentimes a particular challenge around food and body, a particular symptom, a particular dis-ease seems to have a precipitating event, seems to be born around a very ripe, juicy life experience. You get married at 22 and you quickly realize, this doesn't feel right. And what happens is when we have experiences in life that we can't digest, we can't metabolize. What do I do? I just married this guy. I'm 22. I just married this guy and I thought this was the guy. And now I'm marrying my father, and that's not a good thing. And so oftentimes when we can't metabolize something, it expresses through the body as unwanted symptoms or unwanted behaviors. On one level, for you, there's a stress response in the body. And for many people, not all, but many, many people who have extreme food sensitivity. So your sensitivities, I'm gonna call extreme, that you had. In many ways, we can consider those a stress response, because essentially your body is going, whoa, this is an enemy. This is an attacker. This is an invader. I don't want this thing coming into me. Dangerous. So your body is identifying a piece of watermelon, which is, when you think of it, it's a benign fruit. Mm-hmm. But your body is identifying it as a hostile enemy and reacting vigorously. So it's almost like a displaced stress response. We're going into fight or flight, but instead of, oh my God, I'm in stress around this marriage, because we can't quite deal with that, it then goes into symptom. I can't quite deal with these foods. And symptom is always trying to teach us, and there's always a message in it. So, and sometimes there's many messages in it. So one message in the symptom is something's wrong. We got to fix this. That's the most basic message. So you do what any smart person would do. Like, okay, let me find the physical medical treatment for what I'm going through. And at some point, you were probably able in your life to unwind from some of the stress of that marriage and the stress of that choice and the stress of the realization that this doesn't work for me. Your body has unwound that such that you can now eat and your body isn't going into an alarm response, a fight or flight response against those foods. So instead of your body looking at this rice muffin is my enemy, this watermelon is my enemy, your body's going, thank the Lord, this stuff is my friend. Let's go. Let's dive in.
Right.
So there's a part of you that is having a very natural human reaction called, oh my God, party time.
Right.
Like I've been deprived all these years. I've been working so hard and we're just going to party hard. And in a way, it's the 20-something-year-old in you. 20-something-year-old, it's I don't know, you have more. Teenagers can party hard. I find that 20-something-year-olds can party harder. Because you just kind of know what you prefer. You have a little bit more money in your pocket than you did when you were 15. You got more independence because you're not living at home, chances are. And you're becoming a young adult. You get out into the world and nobody's telling you what to do. So there's a part of you that's 22 years old and partying hard when you eat a whole watermelon. There's a part of you that's 22 years old and partying hard when you eat more rice muffins than you should have had. So in my belief system, the person that's eating is not 58-year-old Noelle when you find yourself binge eating. When you find yourself binge eating, you are no longer 58-year Noelle who's smart, and grounded, and sees the world real clear. You're a 22-year-old girl who's like, oh my God, I can finally have some fun and finally relax and finally enjoy myself. And I can eat this thing and not feel like I'm dying. So all I'm saying is it makes sense that you would do that. I just want you to see the psychological brilliance of that strategy. Like, wow, I have a pleasure deficit. I have a life experience deficit, and it's the 20-something-year-old in you talking.
Totally makes sense.
Now, at the same time, what's going on for you is last, 3-ish years, taking care of your mom passing, that's a loss, that's a grief. And on top of already the 22-year-old in you that wants a party, on top of that, there's you who wants to eat to soothe yourself because you lost somebody close to you, you lost your mother. Mother's not a father. We come from our mother. There's a bond there like no other. And it also makes sense that when we can't metabolize difficult emotions, grieving, we can't metabolize a difficult experience. I've lost my mother. We turn to food because you eat food and you feel good pretty quickly. Yeah, you might not feel good 20 minutes later or an hour later, but the mind wants instant gratification. That's how the young mind in us works. It wants instant gratification. So a part of you that knows you shouldn't be eating like tons of blueberries, but there's a part of you that's stronger that wants pleasure in order to get out of the pain. There's kind of a part of you wanting pleasure, just have pleasure, i.e. party girl, I can now eat these foods.
Right.
So there's that part of you that's happening that I think it's important to acknowledge. You just want to enjoy. You're 58 years old. You're healthier than you've ever been in a certain way. and you want to enjoy. I fully support that. And part of it is you're going to overreact. I don't think I can say it in simpler terms. I think you're just overreacting because you just got this big birthday cake in front of you and it just looks really good.
Right.
It's kind of what it is. So you're learning, I believe. So I'm always looking at it through the lens of our relationship with food and body is a great teacher. Your relationship with food and body is a great teacher for you. So therefore, let's look at what your unique, beautiful, fascinating relationship with food and body, what's it teaching you? And right now, me being the interpreter of your story, the observer of your story, what it looks to me like it's trying to teach you is, on the one hand, okay, Noelle, you're learning how to control instant gratification right now. You're learning how to titrate pleasure. You're excited. Excited is good. You want to approach life with gusto. You want to eat and enjoy. That is good. Eating and enjoying is good. Ain't nothing wrong with that. If you're going to eat, you might as well enjoy it. Especially if you really enjoy it, especially if you feel like you've been deprived of it and now it works for you. So you're literally retraining your being. It's almost like a kid. Like at a certain age, if you left your 5-year-old with a bunch of chocolate, they're gonna eat as much as they could, chances are.
Right.
So there's the part of you that's the kid in the candy store.
Mm-hmm.
That you're learning how to adult or parent that part of you. So it's learning how to invoke the adult in you, the mother in you, the parent in you who can bring through that wise voice in the moment. Because in order to binge, in order for you or me or anyone else to binge, to eat something that we wish we wouldn't have, a part of us needs to check out. A part of us needs to not be home. You're not sabotaging yourself. You're simply, a part of you is exiting. I'm going to call that part of you the queen, the adult, the woman. She's stepping aside, and the 22-year-old or the young person is stepping in and going, okay, here's all these goodies. I'm going to eat. I'm going to have a great time. So we need to call back in Noelle, the woman, the queen. And she's the one that needs to make the choices. Oh, God, I love watermelon. How do I make this work for me? Let me sit down with this piece of watermelon, agree with myself, I'm not going to have more than this generous piece. And I'm going to sit down and be present with it. I'm going to eat it slow. I'm going to suck all the pleasure out of it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to make sure I'm there. Binge eating, I don't know, does it feel like when you binge eat, you go through it quickly, like you kind of devour the food? Or are you like eating it slow and present?
Well, I have a conscious understanding that it would be best for me to eat it slow and present. So I'll start out that way, but it doesn't, and then it just gains speed. And it's like pretty soon it's just like shove it all in.
Yes. Yeah. So that's where life is teaching you. That's where your relationship with food and body is teaching you. It's teaching you how to regulate that part of you. That's all. Because there is that part of you and me and everyone else that in certain instances we see pleasure and we just want to dive in and check out and lose control and just because a part of us from the past feels a little deprived and a part of us in the present just wants to get as much as we can, because if I get as much as I can, then I won't ever somehow feel deprived because I'll have all this watermelon in my system. That's what the brain is saying on some level to us. That's what the voice is saying. If you devour this and get as much as you can, somehow that equals no deprivation. And somehow that's hedging against it being taken away from you again. So you have to invoke the adult, the queen, the woman in you, and keep her present in the room. So yeah, you start out that way. How do I keep breathing? How do I keep staying present with myself and not let Noelle, the adult, leave? So you want to keep her in the room. And so that, I think, is technique number one. It's a practice.
Mm.
This is a practice. You're not going to get it in the first week or the second week or the third week. It's going to take you a while to get used to, oh, this food is part of my life. I don't have to get all excited and just like, because it's always going to be there now. And I can have a decent amount and get what I want. And if I want, I can have some more tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah. I can have more tomorrow. And then I can have more the next day. Because that watermelon will still be in the refrigerator. You can even agree with yourself. I will eat this watermelon this week. Okay, divvy it up this way. So yeah, that whole baby's yours. So you know that watermelon's all yours. Nobody going to take it. It's going to be there. It's going to be in the refrigerator. And here's how much I need to eat every day, such that by day 7, I still got a nice piece left over. Eat it, enjoy it, relax. Remind yourself that there's more for tomorrow. And stay present with yourself. Notice the part of you that just wants to keep going, maybe. And the part of you that wants to keep going, if you notice it, she's anxious. She's anxious. She's maybe overly excited. Excitement and stress both look like each other very physiologically. Heart rate is up, blood pressure's up. You have elevated insulin and cortisol. They look the same physiologically. The main difference that we can see is that it's a different internal experience. You and I could be going down a roller coaster. If I hate roller coasters and you love roller coasters, we can have the same heart rate up, blood pressure up, stress hormones up. And the difference is I'm going down the roller coaster, not liking the experience, and you're loving the experience. It's an internal experience. I love this. So it's letting yourself know that, yeah, I love this experience. I'm excited about it. And I'm going to learn how to modulate that excitement. So I could have it in doses. That's adult mind. That's adult thinking. Does that make sense to you? Does that?
It does. Yeah, I can see that it's, like you said, it's a practice. I can see that's going to take some time to really get that down.
It's like raising a child and teaching them how to be with their impulses and how to be with food. And chances are when you were raising your kids, you didn't just let them eat whatever they want, whenever they want it.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain foods you put a limit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that in a very sweet, loving, gentle way because you care about your kids. You're not putting limitations on them because you're mean. You're putting limitations on them because you're taking care of them.
Right.
So this is you putting guidelines, parameters, limitations, boundaries, whatever words you want to lose with yourself from a place of love. So what's interesting is that's kind of like the job of a mother on a certain level. You're learning how to be a really good mother to yourself in this regard.
Yeah, so you probably can see my face. So that rings a bell because, like, my relationship with my mom, she, my whole entire life, I felt like I had to take care of her, like I was mothering her, even before she moved in. And there was a time that in my life where I didn't have contact with her hardly at all for about 10 years, just because I felt like I needed to constantly separate myself from that constant draw. I felt her sucking the life out of me.
Mm.
And I never really felt like she was super overprotective. Like when I was a child, I wasn't allowed to go to friends' houses. I had just a lot of restrictions. And I always felt like I wasn't really mothered. And on my energy on the inside, I was mothering her.
Yes. This is I'm so glad you pointed that out, because this is not uncommon. Oftentimes when a woman is not yet ready to step into the mother archetype, she's still herself a daughter or a sister. And if she didn't get the mothering she needs, weirdly enough, she gives birth to a female. And it's very possible for a mother to, at some point, want her child to take care of her emotionally, energetically, subtly. It's unconscious. They don't know that they're doing that. It's not like they set out to do that. But she was probably hungering for what she never got, which was mothering. So now here's a female that loves her, that comes from her. This will be a good mommy for me, which is excessively confusing to a child. It's difficult, and we usually don't unwind this particular challenge until we become adults, because it's too confusing. And in a strange way, if your mother is unconsciously demanding when you're a child that you take care of her, you almost have to take care of her, because technically speaking, she is the mom. She is the big person. She is the one who's driving you around. She is the one paying for stuff. And if your dad is absent, she's even more important.
Right.
So you have to take care of the person that is actually supposed to take care of you, and she is necessary for your survival. So you end up taking care of your mama just from a survival standpoint. Forget about the fact that you love her. So of course you want to help her because you love her, but at the same time, you're coming from survival. Because if I don't take care of this big person who takes care of me, I'm screwed. So oddly enough, when a parent passes on, we're in a different relationship with them and us, like never before.
Right.
And it's a great time for you, I'm going to say, to be the mother that you didn't have to yourself. Because you know what good mothering looks like. You know what not so good mothering looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not being present and taking care of yourself, that's a continuation of your mother not being present and not taking care of you. When you're abandoning yourself, that's your mother not being present and kind of abandoning you in a certain way, abandoning her role. She didn't know any better. So your job is to be a better mother to you than your mother was at this stage.
Right.
Because there's a part of you that's hungering for good mothering. And good mothering can especially show up in our relationship with food and body. Because as a female, you're going to model after your same-sex parent. As a male, I'm going to model after my same-sex parent. Like, how does my dad do manhood? How does my dad do having a body? How does my dad do eating? As a girl, as a woman, you're going to model after your mother. How does my mother do being in a body? How does she do eating? And you also model after. So important point being, that you're now the mother. How do you be a really good mother to yourself? Part of being a good mother is holding your child when they have emotions that are difficult and just loving them through it.
Mm.
You don't try to take away their emotions. You just hug them and let them know, you're sad. I love you. You're depressed. I love you. You're going through difficulty. I love you. Right now, you personally are going through grieving. And how do you love yourself even though you're in grief? Grieving, like we agreed, is not an easy emotion. It's not a fun emotion. And anything you can do to support yourself in the grieving process is gold. Because it's going to be easy for us to want to distract from a difficult emotion. Distraction can mean going to food. It can mean going to the internet, whatever people do to distract. And it's okay if you feel sad and grieving for days, weeks, or months. Like, really.
Mm-hmm.
When my mom passed away, my dad had passed away before her, I was deeply depressed for months. I remember I was confronted with my own mortality. And I wasn't much use to anybody. And I'm just glad I had the support to just be in my grief and feel it. And
I definitely have purpose to do that. And even that, it's not linear. I do better at it sometimes than not. And I think the biggest thing is, I spent 2 weeks where I just basically cried day and night, and I don't know how to describe some of the sounds that came from my body were just primordial. Just primal. And I just felt like that was such great grieving. And I felt a big lift. That was probably 6-8 weeks ago. And I felt a big lift after that. So then now I'm like, okay, so where's this next wave? I'm kind of I think I'm not feeling it. And I don't know how to really access it. I know there's more, but I'm in this pattern.
Well, what if you just let the wave be the wave? Because it does come in waves and it does have a rhythm and it's unknown to us. We don't know. You can't predict it necessarily. You can find yourself fine from here on in and grieving again 2 years later. I grieved the death of my grandparents. I didn't really start to grieve them until, 10, 20 years after they passed. I just wasn't emotionally available to grieve when they died. And at some point it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 40 years old and I'm grieving, and I'm 50 years old. I'm still grieving them. And then I'm 60 years old. And I still have a little grief. It just comes and it goes, but it's less intense and it's more familiar. And I learned that there's nothing wrong with it. It's not like, oh, I didn't finish doing something. It's loved ones that you are connected to. Who says it's ever supposed to stop?
I never thought about it like that.
We learn to be with it, and it develops. The relationship with your deceased parent changes. It grows in its own strange way. So I don't think there's anything to get through, and everything to just notice where you're at. And great, if there's no grieving happening right now, then fine. And okay, let's now be with you and how you're redesigning your life and how you're redesigning your relationship with food and your relationship with your body. How you're being a good mother to yourself. That might be a great journaling exercise for you. Just what are all the ways I could be a great mother to myself?
I like that.
It could be things external, all kinds of external things that you do in the world, but it can also be internal, how you speak to yourself. How would a good mother soothe you in this moment of uncomfortability? How would a good mother cheer you on when you have this little success? How would a good mother celebrate you when something sweet happens in your life? So it's you being that person for you.
Mm.
So I think you have the key tools that you need right now to begin to learn what you need to learn about your new relationship with food and body. Relative to the binge eating on the foods that you couldn't eat in the past, you're retraining the kid in you how to delay gratification and how to not eat the whole enchilada.
It sounds, as I think about this playing out, it sounds like a fun challenge.
Yes. What a good challenge to have. Better than, oh my God, I can't eat watermelon and it makes me feel even worse than it used to make me feel. That would suck. But
yes, it would.
This is a welcome challenge. You can eat these foods again. And now you're just training yourself how to not be in full on let loose party girl mode. And you're training yourself how to just modulate your pleasure experience. So you're learning on the job. So this is a very positive thing. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not doing anything wrong. You're exhibiting all the symptoms of being a human being. And then the piece about assuming the mantle of becoming the mother that you always wished you could have had, that mother to yourself.
Yeah, I can see how, that can have far-reaching effects in a person's life. Not just food, but a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exciting.
It is. I'm glad you see it that way, because I really think it is. You're in a beautiful place, and even though you've had a difficult loss, you're present to it, and you've been there before. And this is the circle of life. And yeah, it does bring us more in touch with our mortality, which I know for me, the more I get in touch with my mortality, the more I realize how precious life is.
Mm-hmm.
And how each moment and how each action is so important, and how I can't afford to disembody myself. I can't afford to check out for long periods of time and do things that go against my own best wishes.
I like that. Yeah, that makes lots and lots of sense.
Because that's time you and I can spend in doing the good things.
Right. And as far as eating goes, it kind of puts I wouldn't say urgency, but it's like there's I don't want to be wasting time. I want to get to it and so that I'm not there's my thoughts, and I don't want too much emphasis on eating. I would like eating just to be like part of life that's like normal, not hyper focusing on it. Yes. So if I can get that down and mother myself into that place of where food feels normal, then I've got all that energy that I can put towards my mission.
Totally. Completely. Beautifully said. And for you, I'm 100% convinced weight loss is just going to be a function. It's going to be a side effect of you stepping into this new you. It's going to be a side effect of you maturing into the woman that you wish to be. Weight loss is going to be a side effect of you being the best mother to yourself that you've ever had. Weight loss is going to be a side effect of you learning how to regulate your excitement for pleasure through food. It's going to be a side effect of that. So you don't have to try to lose weight. You just do the things that life is calling you to do, that your relationship with food and body, it's being a great teacher. So you just learn some of those lessons and practice them. And your body's going to find its natural weight.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. How are you feeling about this conversation?
I feel great. I've felt like I have a lot of insight, and I just felt a little lost. Like I couldn't, like the things that I've done in the past weren't really working. I really didn't have like a direction. So now I feel like, yeah, this makes so much sense, and what a fun direction to go into. Yeah. And so I'm pretty pumped and excited.
I'm so glad for you, Noelle. Great piece of work, and I have no doubt you're gonna absolutely get where you want to go.
I agree.
I so appreciate the conversation with you. I so appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark.
Yes, you are so welcome. And thanks everybody for tuning in. More to come, my friends. Take care.
Hey friends, we're so happy that you've joined us for another episode of The Psychology of Eating with Marc David. Are you loving these episodes? Then simply subscribe and you'll never miss an episode again. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a comment below so we can hear more about your own journey with food and body. And if you're curious about what we offer at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, including our internationally acclaimed coach certification training that's rooted in dynamic eating psychology and mind-body nutrition, please head on over to our website, psychologyofeating.com. Until next time, take care. And remember, having the body you want starts with loving the body you have.